Remember to ask your questions throughout the presentation in the Q&A box. Make sure you click on the arrow to submit.
People all over the world are increasingly taking more responsibility for their own health and for the health of their loved ones. Self-care has never been more important in helping people achieve better health. It is playing an increasingly significant role in healthcare systems worldwide. We provide consumers with tools, knowledge, and resources to help them effectively practice self-care through the use of non-prescription medicines, nutritional supplements, medical devices, and other self-care solutions. Millions of people around the world are familiar with our products. Often, these products have been part of their lives for several generations.
My family is the most important thing in my life. We've always used Bepanthen to protect skin. That's what I learned from my family.
Through a strong focus on products in core categories such as analgesics, nutritionals, dermatology, digestive health, cardiovascular risk prevention, cough and cold, allergy, foot care and sun protection, we enable our consumers to take better care of their health and well-being. We also aspire to advance digitalization in the healthcare market with digital products and services. In addition, we will continue to selectively pursue external growth opportunities that increase our footprint in strategic focus markets and to make strong investments in consumer-centric innovation.
Hello, my name is Pietro and I'm from Bayer, and I was invited today to talk to you about the implementation of Simio for production scheduling at one of our factories in Germany. So first of all, I'd like to thank the Simio team for the invitation. I'm happy to share what have we been doing together for the past months. And I'm also very interested in getting to know the other companies also here in the conference, and that can share their stories with everyone. So the agenda for today, I'm going to start first with introduction about our factory in the south of Germany. Then we also going to go through the different products and the manufacturing process of the factory. Then we're going to move more into the production planning, how we were doing before having Simio. I can present to you the solution for production scheduling that we have now with Simio, as well as the IT landscape supporting the production and the model developing that we have done together with the Simio team, as well as the simulations that we already performed with Simio and that we intend to perform in the future. Then we can end the session with some lessons learned, and as well as an overview of our next steps and future plans. So our site, Supply Center Grenza, it's part of the Bayer Consumer Health Group, and it's located in the south of Germany. We have about 650 different SKUs that are produced in this factory. About 30 semi-solids, bulk formulations that are produced also here. And for that, we have basically 11 resources, so 11 tube filling and packaging lines, one blister packaging line, as well as 4 semi-solid bulk formulation lines. The main brands that we produce here at the site are Bepanthen, ointment and cream, as well as Canesten. In order to tell you a little bit about how our production process takes place, we have actually a short video that I'll be sharing right now. So you will see in the next few seconds, minutes, a little bit of our material flow. So basically, we receive the materials from our different suppliers or from our warehouse. So the pallets are moved into the building. We have different quality tests on the way for the raw materials, but also for finished goods and so on. Then we do the weighting of the raw materials in the quantities and volumes as needed. They are filled into our mixing lines in the different quantities, as well as pre-weighted. For that, we also have MES systems in place to support this. Then we have the filling process in our filling and packaging lines, as you can see here on the video. These tubes then continue on the process of packaging, where they receive also the leaflet, and they are placed inside folding boxes. So these folding boxes then are later as well controlled during the process, our so-called in-process controls. Then they are grouped into bundles and also placed by the palletizer machine altogether to be later then sent to the warehouses, to the distribution centers, and then to our customers. As well, as you can see, the quality is also done for the finished goods. And only when the finished good has been tested and released that the goods are really sent to the final customers and consumers. A sense of how the material is flowing, we can refer to this diagram. So from our suppliers, we receive the different materials, either raw materials, tubes, leaflets, folding boxes, and anything we might need in the production process. And we have the inbound quality control and release. After that, so from our inventories, we separate the raw materials, so we weight them in the right quantities, and they are mixed in our bulk mixers. We also have a quality process in place to release that bulk. And then they are sent to the packaging lines, our filling and packaging lines. As mentioned before, we have for different brands and different set of products, different packaging lines. As soon as the finished goods are completed, we also have the quality release process, and only then it's then distributed to our customers. So now a little bit about our planning process. So what we had before. So we have this in unstructured communication, so really a lot of Excels going from one to another through emails, also referring to our ERP systems, and yeah, instant messages in different platforms being used. Manual data exchange, also a very slow pace and really creating confusion on where is the really real data, real life data information. Also a lack of visibility to compare the plan with actuals, and also future scenarios being calculated manually. And so we make internally this kind of analogy. We are moving now from the map in a paper form to a more digital way of like maps, as you know, some applications that we can use online to see what's going on the traffic, to see what's going on on the different distances that we need to take. So this is actually what we are intending to do, changing our production plan from before to a more digital way. So we are then moving to a single source of information where we can access everything in one platform, automated data exchange, real-time process visibility, as well as having the possibility of creating what-if scenarios and bottleneck analysis with a few clicks and with a a good overview of our process. Also, a little bit about our planning process and planning cycle. So our source of information comes, for example, from forecasts, also from potential lost sales that we have in the countries, safety stocks levels, and also market segmentation. So all that aggregated in our ERP system. We use the SAP solution. And also from the site, so more at a local level, so the material supply, the materials released, work in progress, speed of production, and also the availability of staff are also input information relevant to our planning process. We consolidate that in different levels. So we have the strategic planning that we do in from 1 to 3 years in a time horizon. We have then a more yearly planning from 4 to 12 months horizon, also in our operations level. And then we have the so-called scheduling, so detailed scheduling up to a 3 months horizon. And on top of that, we conduct several simulations, scenarios, either for CapEx decision or for portfolio change by demand. So where the digital twin, so where a digital solution will support us are in these different horizons of planning that would support us in creating the different scenarios and also parameters to be considered. But we're gonna talk about that in the next slides. So as soon as these different horizons of planning are performed, then we write it back or we have this feedback into our ERP system. About the detail, production schedule, and also schedule for our quality control, for example, with different dashboards and reports that can be not only read by production, but also by other departments in our company. I'll share here some of the objectives that we had in the beginning of the project. Why then we decided to implement this digital twin solution from Simio for production scheduling at our factory. So it's about the possibility of making business rules and decision logic very clear and see the outcomes of those decisions. It's about also being synchronized with our ERP system, in our case, SAP. So our planning module, APO, and our other modules for production. And as well as getting the possibility for automatic planning and scheduling based on target KPIs and performance, as well as optimizing our schedule based on the decision rules preset by us, and as well as mentioned before, this bottleneck analysis, which help us to see where the root cause of a problem is, see the alternatives, and finally choose one of them. How the connectivity in our case worked. So we have our ERP system, so our planning system, SAP APO. From there, we import the data. So basically master data, production orders, bill of materials, and any other set of data that's relevant for our planning. We first bring all of that into our cloud solution. In our case, it was the Amazon AWS cloud. So we build this data lake where we also bring information from our MES system, for example, with more shop floor data information. So there's more real live data information from the resources, from the lines. The connectivity of that was done through the one data integration software, in our case, Talent. So after we have this data storage and the data lake, so in our cloud solution, then we bring it to the Simio environment, where then our main goals are optimizing the resource utilization, improving our projected potential loss sale results, also increasing our level of production plan adherence, checking our inventories, and having flexibility about the target KPI. So some months or even some planning cycles, they change. So having the flexibility to change them, as well as having a reduced planning and scheduling effort. So in the Simio environment, then it proposes a few different schedules based on our parameters, and as long as we are fine with them, then we send it back, this optimized production sequence, first to the cloud, and then from the cloud solution back to our ERP system. And basically what we write back are the start date of the production orders, and then the ERP system takes those start dates and as the new so the new sequence for production. So that's basically the IT framework that we have, and this data import and export, it's basically flowing with a few minutes delay. It's just the time from migrating from one system to the other. And every time that the production planners or anybody working with the data that they want a fresh set of data, all they have to do in the Simio environment is to click import data, and as soon as they are happy with the proposed sequence, then it's only about clicking export data. And I'm gonna show you actually in our software, so in our solution later in the presentation, so you can see how it actually looks like. About the project timeline. So the first discussion about the possibility of implementing Simio at our site started in 2020, so last year. So first, really to understand what the software is capable of and also if it's really fitting our needs. Then in the second quarter of 2020, we developed together a proof of concept, so a prototype, where we could also already try a little bit with what the tool is about and already see some of our resources, so to have a feeling of how that could look like in the daily planning. So finally, in the quarter three, finalizing quarter four of last year, then we had the functional requirement specification sessions, so basically workshops that we had together with the production planners, but also the production heads, engineering, and IT, so to understand all the requirements that we would have for our site. So as soon as we got the approval for starting the implementation, we started then together with the Simio team with the model development, and also with the support of the team, but on our internal IT landscape, we started also with the data integration. So it was about identifying in our ERP system which fields, which transactions, which master data would be needed to flow into Simio in order to generate an optimized schedule. And where we find ourselves, so we had live for the production scheduling and the transition now to operations, and soon then moving into the hypercare and enhancements based on any feedback that we get from the production planners. During the implementation itself, we divided our team in Grenza in different work streams. So basically, some of us taking care of the model development together with the Simio team, so providing input about the different decision logics. Another team taking care of the IT integration with our different ERP system. Also with the work stream of future planning process, because we have to consider that our planning process will change as soon as Simio is in place, and also work stream for master data. And that was a learning for us, that we had to do some cleaning of the master data, so making sure that the data flowing from ERP is in a right setting and really providing information that we need for Simio. And after we had the plan, so the model, it was really about testing and retesting and validating the model, and also having trainings with the different users of the solution. So into this transition into practice. So even during the implementation, we already could use Simio even in an offline setting, so not yet connected to the data of ERP, so with data extracts, but it already helped us for example, the decision on acquiring a new packaging line. So that was already quite in the beginning of the project. So during the project also supported us in some what-if simulations. For example, we needed to decide the best time for stopping one of our packaging lines for it. And then we simulated what would be the best week or month in the year to have that stop, and also how much bridging stock should we build, and when should we start having more shifts allocated to that particular packaging line. But of course, our main goal and where we are moving now is to this automated production planning and scheduling. And so that was from the beginning our main goal, but we saw the benefits of having the possibility of making simulations with the tool as well. So here you can see some of the benefits as well. So either on a site level, so for the production planners, so they saying that it's easier now for short-term changes when they are needed. Also that we can see the effects of different scenarios just with a few clicks, as well as so our company set up that the production side, and we also have the hub or our headquarters. And as I mentioned before, we had a lot of email being exchanged, Excel files here and there. So now we speak the same language, so one language, where both on the site level, on the headquarters level, they can see the same information on the platform. So it's about being able to plan with the tool in different planning horizons, either on a short term or the long term for the capacity planning, having also transparency and precision on the planning process. And you're gonna see later that also in our for our site, we have implemented both the online portal solution as well as the desktop solution, where we can see different dashboards, different reports to help our decision on on the planning schedule. So we have these two platforms from Simio for our site. One of them is web-based, so it's the so-called Simio portal, and created in our intranet, so our server in Bayer, and it's basically used for the daily planning. So the planners, they get full access of all the features for experimenting, planning, so sending dashboards to the production heads, to the maintenance heads, management team, and the other users. So as I mentioned before, either from production or maintenance, they have the access rights only to see the dashboards and reports. So there's no kind of so they cannot change anything in the plan. So it's safe to share, and based on their feedback, then the planners can do the changes which are needed. We also have the desktop solution. So then it's installed in every each computer from each user. And we basically are using it for simulations and for training purposes. And as well here, the planner has full access, and it's the choice of the planner if he wants to the schedule of their lines, of the packaging lines, or or bulk making lines, either on the software installed in the computer on the desktop, or on the solution installed in the server. So both are possible. So this is the desktop environment of Simio. So as you can see, we are on the planning resource plan tab in mode. So you see here the Gantt chart with our different resources. So our mixing, our bulk mixing resources, our packaging, filling and packaging lines. We have on the right side our set of parameters that we can set before simulating or creating a schedule with Simio. What we also have then, for example, the tables that we have flowing into Simio from either our ERP systems or MES system or any Excel file that we have stored somewhere in our system. So basically, here, whenever we want a refresh set of data, we would come and say import all tables. And after about 2 minutes, we would have refreshed all the tables coming from the different sources. What we also have in the desktop possibility of creating experiments. So here we had the one we talked about, finding the best time to stop one of our packaging lines for an upgrade. So we can set the different parameters and run the different scenarios. And based on the KPIs, then we make a decision on which of the scenarios to choose. And as soon as we agree on one of the scenarios, we can copy the scenario control to our model for the scheduling itself. So these are some of the basic features. I will switch now to the other version of Simio in our server. So installed what we call then the web version or portal Simio portal. So what you see here is basically the same. We are on the resource plan. We have here the Gantt chart with the different production orders planned in the different resources. We have as the same as for the desktop version, the set of data tables that are being imported into the software. So you see we can do the same and import all tables, and everything would be refreshed within about 2 minutes. And as soon as the data has been refreshed, and also we have set our parameters, we can then say run the plan. For us, it takes also about a few minutes, and then it proposed to us based on our parameters and set of rules, what would be the ideal sequence for our planning. So here we have the Gantt chart, but for us it's quite interesting the different dashboards that we get after each run. So here, just give an example by selecting one of the resources. We have information such as the shift plan available, how much of that is covered with process orders or with changeovers, for example. We have, for example, an overview about the changeover. It's interesting for the engineering department, the maintenance department, to know how many large changeovers or small changeovers are being performed per month. That this is being shown here. We can select a specific resource, also the time horizon that is of our interest. We can also see, for example, either material availability, volumes, capacity utilization, for example. So how much percentage of our packaging lines, I choose again one specific resource, is being utilized. So processing time, changeover time, available time. So here we chose not to show the time that the line is not planned, but we can also see another different dashboard view. So the software is quite flexible to allow many different type of dashboards that will help us to choose a specific scenario or a specific alternative over another. And specifically the dashboard, so we can choose and I want to share this plan with other planners. So that's also easy to do. I can also check the plan of other colleagues if I like. And if we want to share only the dashboard itself, we can share with the production heads or with maintenance heads or management team to show them what's expected for the current plan. So here you see we are looking into the 3 to 4 months horizon, but we can also extend that to a 1 year or 2 years and have a good overview of our plans. So as soon as everybody is happy with the current model, so we made the changes necessary. We have the so-called exception tables where we can maybe force some changes that was designed to us based on our needs. So when we are really happy with the scenario that we built, with the schedule that we built, then we can go to the not import but to export table. So now I haven't made any changes, so but here would be available to export the table back to our ERP system. So that will from importing, checking if we are happy with the current plan, and maybe I can just show before moving back to the presentation. So the production plan itself. So here it's what really interesting for the production area to know what orders in what sequence should they produce, in which quantities, what's the duration, and so this is basically something that they would be checking before finally saying, okay, I'm okay with the plan, and then writing it back to our ERP system, in our case, SAP APO. So this was a little bit the overview about the software and the features that we are basically using in the daily planning. So basically, the data is kept into Simio, either desktop or web version, and it's importing directly from our ERP system, for example, flowing into the data lake, so into our cloud, and then into Simio. So we have the different sources of data, different data tables. Here's another example. So where we can see the different resources that we have in our site, in our plant in Grenza. And as mentioned during the project phase, we identified together with the simulation, so using the simulation of Simio, that we would require a new resource in the near future. So it's also easy to be incorporated into the model. We just need to add extra resource, tell the model what are the formats that this specific resource can run, and make the necessary connections, and then we can also in the future plan the specific new resource. So I would like to share with you some of the lessons that we learned during the project, during the implementation phase, and now into the operations. So we saw that really it's a team effort. So not only from the colleagues from Simio, but internally, the supply chain planning team, of course, but also production, engineering, IT, also logistics, quality, finance, and controlling are a few examples of the departments that were required to be involved in the implementation, because we needed to understand from each one of them what would be the impact of changing one specific item, where should the specific data come from, also understanding the manufacturing process or the different quality control processes that are involved in our factory. So also, in this case, I need to thank not only the colleagues from the Simio team, but also our colleagues in our supply center, Grenza, and in the IT and engineering departments in the corporate level. And so a lesson that we learned, so the workshops that we held in the beginning, partially from the functional requirement specifications, but also the weekly meetings that we had with the different teams, that really helped into explaining the developers from Simio how our production looks like, how it works, and translating that into the model. So this process was really important. So this model development, we also notice it's a very iterative process. So we start with this proof of concept, and then we increase the complexity. We then start looking, for example, into the bill of materials. We have the so-called due dates, or when our countries go out of stock for specific SKUs. So we introduce the complexity on the way, and then we test and validate also on the way. So that's was a learning for us. And even some constraints and bottlenecks that were not so well known to us before, they got to be got to be known by us during the project. Also another learning regarding the master data. So we kept in the past and currently we keep our master data in a good stand, but by importing the data and seeing how it actually looks like, we realize that it really is a good effort to keep our master data in a good stand. It will probably help us in future projects, but also in the daily business. To know if a certain SKU has a certain performance at a line, maybe if a specific material provided by a supplier is available or not. So this type of information, we need to be sure that it's in a good stand on ERP and then later at Simio, so we can write back in a good way as well. And maybe last but not least, learning. So the Simio team, because now COVID, we could not have any meeting or any workshop at our site. So it was everything online, everything running with meetings, digital meetings. So despite of that, so the deliver, and we could get really good results, even though we could not see each other in person. So maybe here, if in future projects that would be possible, I think even if it's only a week, only a few days to meet in person and to show the factory, that could be a good thing to do in future projects. But despite of that, we could come to a good result. And just to finalize the presentation, so we are now finalizing the production scheduling with Simio. What we already have on the go, so we are looking into capacity planning, so more the long-term horizon. So dashboards are being developed to help us in this direction. Also, we are bringing the maintenance schedule, so the engineering maintenance department can also use the features of Simio to better plan the maintenance. What we are currently looking into also the quality control scheduling with Simio, so extending the model to also at the laboratory level to say the difference that needs to be performed in each sequence. And in this case, connected with the production scheduling part, so model, that we then can, whenever we have a new priority in the production, that can be automatically reflected into quality control, for example. So that could be a very good end-to-end connectivity within the site for us. What we don't have yet plans, but could be in the future very relevant, is to focus a little bit more on the automated shift planning and also the workforce planning. So the operators at the different lines, how many operators do we need, when, and maybe 1 year from now with our different capacities and demands, should we need more operators at the lines as well. So also the automation of the logistics planning, we are thinking about that. That could be helpful to our implementing incorporating in our digital twin. And last but not least, one yet found a solution fitting our needs would be in the master data review. So that is currently done manually, but if in the future we could have an automated process to do that, that could also be helpful for us. So with that, I finished then the presentation, and I really hope that we could give you a sense, an idea of how our factory works, our material flow, also how Simio is helping us to reduce this complexity and to propose a better schedule. And yeah, I really hope that we can continue in the future exchanging, so we can, yeah, all of us move in a good direction. So thanks everyone for being here and for listening to the presentation, and looking forward for future exchanges.
Well, thank you so much, Pietro, for a great presentation. We have some time here, so I'd like to take some questions and answers from the audience. The first question we have is, do you have insight on choosing a data lake versus a data warehouse?
I think it's so. Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching the presentation. To be honest, I don't have that visibility, that overview. I know we had already partnered with the current provider, so it kind of offered to us the solution that we needed. So unfortunately, to this question, I cannot give any insight. What would be the benefit if we would choose for the other option for data warehouse as mentioned here?
Yeah, no problem. Second question about your data. How often do you refresh data for scheduling?
So in the operation, so when we are planning the horizon of 3 months, we usually then refresh the data by the beginning of the day, let's say. And if we perform any change, so that we want to then have the way we built it with the Simio team is that it can be refreshed anytime. So any time of the day, there is a delay, as I mentioned in the recording, so of 2-3 minutes to retrieve all the data. So basically, we refresh it once per day, or by demand whenever we have any major change in the data.
Does scheduling based on simulation modeling / digital twins also need validation from IT and quality systems? If so, how was this done?
But we did have to have talks with our IT colleagues, and not specifically quality systems, but the production planning module. So we needed to see at a global level if we have authorization then to retrieve the data. We had also to make the proper connections. A good point, especially for this validation, for the design process, and also the validation when everything is set up.
Yeah. Digging a little bit deeper on the validation, is the model a well-established and validated solution? And how often do you update the model?
So we are right now in the transition from project mode to really operation mode, so that we use in the daily planning. So during the project mode, we exchange with the Simio team regularly the changes they do based on our feedback, enhancements, and so changes of the model. So for the experience at the beginning, I really thought that would be a difficult process. So every time a new model or a new version, but as you get used to that, so you see it's about just uploading it to the server, the newest version of the model to all the users. So it's no big deal. Happy with any type of enhancements we are still ongoing. We don't intend to be changing the model that frequently. I would expect that so let's say every 6 months or every 1 year, we might have some updates, but not more often than that. That would be my expectation. Otherwise, it creates some doubts, or nobody's really sure what's the current model. But if we do that in a less frequent way, it would be better probably.
Thank you. A question about your MES data. How do you automate the cleanup of MES data?
So it's we would like that. We don't have that. What we are looking for, we also mentioned. So in the end, we would like to find a way to automatically point out, improve our master data. So not only in MES, but also our ERP system. So to tell us where there's potential to make it better. So we still don't have that automation for cleaning up the MS data. What Simio helped, I mean, in the beginning of the project, when we imported data files and then we saw something was not working well, then the root cause, many cases was the not so clean master data. So that was a learning, and we're still trying to find a way to automatize this. If somebody in the audience has an ideas, I'll be glad to exchange on that.
They can contact you through the platform.
Yes.
But a question about your COVID-19 response. Did the Simio digital twin help with your COVID-19 response in terms of meeting increased local demand or implementing social distancing?
Well, so the project, we run everything online. So we didn't have a meeting in person, but that worked out well. And I don't know if the question is related as well. So our production, I think, from the COVID pandemic, and so the simulation potential that we have with Simio, let's say a few of the colleagues cannot join production, then we have to postpone production. We have to see the impact of that in a demand, in a supply level. So it does help in simulation, those kind of scenarios. So COVID was there, and see more of those benefits in the next months and years. But yes, the answer.
I think we lost you there for a second. But the next question, are there any changes in the scheduling process, and how is that change management being handled?
Yes, so there are changes in the scheduling process. So previously it was done mostly through the ERP system directly and with Excel files, and now we are bringing much of the process to be done in one tool. So at the digital twin from Simio. So the change management is a very ongoing process. So we started with trainings, everybody familiarized with the tool and the features that we have there, and also the planning cycle, so that we usually have done monthly, weekly. So now also changes do that process. So the change management is a big part of the project.
Digging a little bit more into your digital twin. When building a digital twin, did you build it with flexible enough to fit multiple use cases, or do you build more robust models for each possible different setup and implementation?
I'm new to that, I must say, but from the experience we've been gathering with production scheduling, and that was our first use case. But then we saw it makes no sense without also the capacity planning, which is of the production scheduling. We are now moving into also including quality scheduling, so scheduling the laboratories. So you see, from trying out one use case, we are already seeing the potential of incorporating with some others to get this kind of end-to-end visibility within the site and later probably also within the network. So it started only with one use case, and now we are seeing the potential to extend. And quality scheduling, we are already even in the discussions of starting it soon. We have ideas such as logistics, scheduling for the trucks, for the transportation. So there are really a lot of potential in that. And I believe the way we have discussed with the flexible enough that we can then link it with other use cases whenever we are ready for that.
A little about your thought process for choosing your tool. What were the key points for comparison for choosing a planning and detailed scheduling tool? Was Simio your first choice for a detailed scheduling software?
So I don't know if here's the place to say. I mean, everybody knows there are other providers in the market. We had already contact with Simio. We saw, so some of the colleagues, you saw the presentation before mine from Manuel. So a few colleagues had already made experience with Simio. And so the idea came to try it out for detailed scheduling. So points of comparison, of course, the basic ones, so the features, pricing, seeing what's off, if it's fitting our requirements. Of course, we run this kind of analysis, and I believe for any of analysis being performed. So that was also our criteria for decision.
Well, thank you. As like every other presentation, Pietro, we had tons of great questions, but due to time, just invite people to ask you directly through the platform. I want to ask one final question for you, and thank you so much for your time, both with a great presentation and also a very robust question and answering. My final question for you, what advice do you have for those thinking about implementing the Simio digital twin?
So yeah, my advice would be to start it, and maybe start it small with a kind of a proof of concept. It worked for us, so that we could then show around our stakeholders and give already a flavor of how and what the tool could come whenever it would be fully implemented. So that would be my advice. Start with a small scope, and then incorporate and make it even more complex on the go. But yeah, don't think too much. Just start small would be my advice.
Well, thanks again for a great presentation. I'm sure everyone enjoyed it. At this time, like as I mentioned, any further questions, feel free to message Pietro through the app. Thanks again, Pietro. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
This concludes this presentation.